Greetings, everyone. Don Slichty here with my series Breaks and Blinkers. What might God be indicating to us through Christian prophets? Just like a car signals whether they're going left and right or stopping, you're on the freeway and there's a lot of cars on there. And thank God for the brake lights, ahead of you that start showing up, getting closer. You have to slow down, right? You have to stop for your own safety and protection. In a similar way, I believe God indicates what He's doing so that we can have hope, so that we can be encouraged, and so that we can pray more effectively in the middle of it. Because Jesus said, look, um, I'm going to build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail. What you bind will be bound. What you loose will be loosed. So we have authority as God's people. And I believe, though, if we're kind of unsure of what is going on, or we're mistaken about what is going on, then we'll miss the prayer mark. We may endure, but we won't really win. And I think that's what God really wants us to do at this stage of human history, is to restore, rebuild, renew. He wants us to win, as President Trump has been saying. Okay, so I believe the United States, going through the 7 topics real quick. The United States, God has a master plan for the United States of when it was discovered, if you will, when it was settled by the Pilgrims and the Puritans, when it was the Declaration of Independence, and so on, with our sins and weaknesses and so forth, which I realize are there, the abuses and all kinds of things have been going on since the birth of our nation. Yet I believe God takes broken things, broken people, and He can use them for His redemptive purposes. So I believe that about the United States. I believe there are enemy angels, fallen spirits, Satan, yes, who seek to kill, steal, kill, and destroy what God desires and God's best, and what God calls His good and righteous, to dilute that, if you will, and cause real problems. Number 3, that Trump has a calling and anointing to bless the world by making America great again. Yeah, I believe God has called him to that. And it's interesting. One of my favorite verses in the last few years has been this: what do you have that you did not receive? So see, I believe that about Don Slichty. I believe that about Donald Trump. I believe that about any person on the planet. And if you know the Lord and you have gifts, skills, experiences that can be a blessing to others, what do you have that you did not receive? Now, you might have cooperated by developing your skills, like Donald Trump, I believe, did. Okay. But what do we have? We were given life and breath by God Himself, our Creator. We were given our unalienable rights through God, our Creator. Okay, not our government, God the Creator, and given gifts. And God means for us to pass them around. Okay, and I believe Donald Trump is doing that. I try to do that with my series here. It's one of the things I can do. Okay, I believe that bad persons, evil, elite, mafia types have controlled our world, and they need to be exposed and removed in order for us to move into the new area, because they control our systems of influence, large businesses and corporations, governments, churches even, um, great control over the medical system, the education system, etc. And I don't believe we can head into a new era, which what I believe God desires, unless those systems are begin to be used for God's purposes, for good things, for righteousness and justice and truth. Okay, so a sleeping people, a programmed people, need to be awakened to the things I'm saying in this series. And then we get to number 6, a wealth transfer. Now you may say, what in the world, Don? What are you? What is this, a prosperity gospel thing? Well, no, it's not. I understand the arguments surrounding that topic, and I think many of us Christians, we kind of have an issue with wealth, actually a blueprint issue that you may need to be rectified in your own life. But so I understand that debate, but I actually believe that God is going to fund good people, Christian people, to rule and reign with Christ on this earth for the good of the planet. Okay. Again, not theocracies like the Pilgrims and the Puritans ran away from to come to the New World, but people submitted to God, and people with money are going to do good things with that money. Now, could they be tempted? Yes. But we don't, right at the current moment, we have all our systems severely controlled. All the fraud that's coming out, you realize in the daycares in Minnesota, Doge, California, And it's just the beginning tip of the iceberg of how badly our fiat money has been abused and used for evil purposes, right? Well, God's going to change that because it's not good. It's not healthy. So, so that's why I believe there's a purpose in a wealth transfer, and we get to the detail of that right now. And then that's going to lead into topic number 7, a new era, a kingdom era, I believe, a special era of God. And we'll get to that in the next video. So let me get to the interpretation application of this series and this topic of the wealth transfer. Let me give some context. Follow me now. In 1913, the Congress, almost in secret session, like it was like before midnight on December 24th, I believe, surprise, surprise, they voted on the Federal Reserve Bank of instituting that. Well, the Federal Reserve is neither federal nor do they have reserves. They can print money willy-nilly. And it's a private bank. It's not a government entity like most people believe. Well, the problem with the Federal Reserve, and our founding fathers warned about this, but it still got passed because, again, as I quote George Washington frequently, he says, cunning, ambitious, unprincipled men will subvert the power of the people. Well, one of the ways those evil spirits do that is through your money system. The Bible calls it unjust weights and balances. So you go to the market, you have a weight there. It's supposed to be a pound, and you get so much money per pound of your grain. Oh, but what if it's not a pound? What if it's 14 ounces? Then you're getting ripped off, right? Well, see, our economic system is inherently unjust. It's decreasing in value through the decades because the Federal Reserve controls it. The income tax system, which I believe is illegal and illegitimate, burdens it. And then in 1971, Nixon took us off the gold backing. So we don't have anything backing our currency, which I believe Trump is going to change. We're going to go back to a gold backed or precious metals system. Okay. So that it's going to make the whole world's system is going to be just weights and balances, which is pleasing to God. Okay. So we're headed that way. But in the meantime, in my lifetime, we've had to live with a devalued dollar, inflated currency, a debt-based economy, whether it be personal debt or national. National debt comes from the Federal Reserve printing money and borrowing it to our banks and borrowing it to us, and then we pay interest, and the government pays interest on the Federal Reserve money, so we have a national debt. And it's all illegitimate and unnecessary. Okay, and I believe it's going to change, but in the meantime, it's burdensome. Okay, so we're easily manipulated by the elites through our financial system, and it needs to be changed. It needs to be rebuilt. Okay, and also most Americans don't really understand this, but if you follow through and do your own research on these topics, we've been robbed and stolen from. Okay, institutionally, we've been robbed and stolen from on multiple levels that I'm not going to go into right now. I'm just going to tell you that's the case. That's why God is going to change the systems because they've been stealing from us. That's why I believe there's going to be a wealth transfer because some of what we have coming has been stolen from us. Proverbs talks about, you don't condemn a man if he steals something to feed his family, right? Okay. But he's got to repay back sevenfold. See, God's system of weights and balances is way more just than we're used to. Because thieves nowadays, maybe they have to serve some time for theft, although that's going away, but they don't pay any restitution to the victims. And I believe all that's got to change for the better. So we've been robbed and stolen from. We've been overregulated, overtaxed, and even bonded at birth. You don't really realize it, but on your birth certificate, there's a number up in the left-hand corner. I believe it's because it's a corporate document, and it's in a sense they are buying your citizenship, if you will, and they're making money off of it over your lifetime, depending upon what you achieve and produce. Most Americans have no clue that's going on. It's another way that we've been stolen from. So now let me get to I give you the premise of my whole series and the wealth transfer, okay, and some of the problems inherent in our system. Now I'm going to go to the benefits of the outcome of a wealth transfer. I believe that we are owed, and there's some words out there that I'm not going to go into because this is there's chapters about these topics, but restitution, reparations, and how do you say? Well, I'll skip that one. It's another R, and I'm not the pronunciation's not coming to me. But I believe President Trump and others are planning a national economic stabilization and recovery act, NESARA, NESARA. Okay, and there's a GESRA, which is the world one. I believe there is a plan to implement that at the proper time, and you will be paid back for illegal, illicit things that have been stolen from you over your lifetime. Now, that alone is a lot of money right there if they actually pay us back for the illegal interest and income taxes and so forth. And that may sound phenomenal to you, like, Don Slicky, you are crazy. Well, do your research. I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think it's coming. But that's just part of it. In the just weights and balances, I believe coming up in the future, it's a family, if you choose not to have your spouse work or your wife to stay home with your kids and kind of as the Bible teaches to be the center of the family and to be able to stay home. If could would they if they could, because many can't, right? We understand that's what we've been pressed into. That's going to change because we're going to have a system of just weights and balances. But another thing is prophetic investments. There have been, oh, gee, I can't tell you, tens of prophets who have been talking about a wealth transfer and specific investments within that. Things like the Iraqi dinar or the Vietnamese dong, etc., prophetic currencies that are currently devalued. And see, when you have these devalued currencies around the world, then these governments and these elites can manipulate things so that they make money on the market shifts or the market, the recession, the depression, etc. They make a ton of money off of that because they can manipulate it. Well, I believe we're going to go to a one-to-one system where a dollar is a dollar in America and it's a yuan in China and it's a pound in England, but in a sense, it's their dollar equals our dollar, if you will. Do you understand what I'm saying? That would be equal weights and measures. And I believe we're headed to that system, which means I believe without all the corrupt taxes and fees and things like that, that where your wealth is drained from you, it'll be repaid to you, number one, but then you'll have a clean start. And going into a new era, we need that wealth to have that restart, and it's going to be a transition period, maybe of a few decades, to really make this transition from how corrupt we are to a righteous and just system. Okay, so there are other prophetic um, investments out there like cryptos, especially I'm going to emphasize XRP. I believe is one of the premium ones. I think there's others. And again, do your research. Just the algorithm will bring you plenty of information, and be careful, be wise, ask for discernment, because as I said, the prophetic arena can be a big blessing, but it can be messy too. And you can have people doing it for their own personal gain and promoting investments and so on and so forth. And it's easy to, ask God for discernment, ask God for wisdom, because you're going to need it if you get involved. If you ignore it all, okay, I think you're still going to be blessed as we come into the new era, because the systems are going to change for our better, for our good. And so I think it's going to be a great day. Another prophetic currency or bond is the Zim bond. Now, some people think that's super cray cray, but Zimbabwe is one of the richest, wealthiest countries in the world. Okay, but it's been suppressed and underdeveloped. But I believe that the Zim bond, which is made fun of and all that kind of stuff, may be one of the primary prophetic currencies that could be of benefit to you. And then there's other Kim Clement, who prophesied, I believe, about President Trump and about the wealth from the west, from the east being moved to the west, and he prophesied about that, and he talked about the dinar specifically. But he said there's other wells of influence that are coming. So in other words, as the economy reboots and reconfigures, if you will, there's going to be all kinds of investment opportunities. So if you learn to listen and be alert now, I believe you can benefit from that. I believe all of us will benefit from the changes, but some are going to get ahead a lot more because they took heed to the prophetic uh, warnings, but also the opportunities. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say in number 6 here, the wealth transfer. I believe God is bringing us opportunities that we can use for good versus personal gain, personal prestige, or nefarious reasons, as has been going on in my lifetime. Okay, so that's number 6 on our 7 big topics. All of these, I don't give them out. I don't give out the prophet and the date or anything. You could do your own research, and if you would discover that's currently going out there. In fact, I'm seeing on Facebook and on X or Twitter, I'm seeing an explosion of what I call truther folks. Some are Christians, some maybe are not, but predicting and prophesying about the wealth transfer. And so I just, if you're not over here, you think, oh, Don, you're a fool. Okay, whatever, we'll see. Because if I'm off on everything and it's doom and gloom, rapture soon, okay, I missed it, but I still get to go to heaven, folks. I don't think I'm missing it though. I think God is signaling these things, and that's why I'm passing it on to you. And if you really want to dig into it, you can. The algorithm will bring it to you. Look up wealth transfer, look up XRP, blah, blah, blah. Call me, message me personally if you want just some more meat to what I'm saying. I'll give it to you, but you got to message me personally. So thanks for listening. And I hope you found this interesting and maybe even profitable. We'll see.